Hello, Star family or Angelic family. Thank you for joining us on this live event. Today's topic will be a bit different since we haven't really talked about the angelic realm so much. We sort of touched upon the subject from time to time, but it was like never a subject here on my channel or during our discussions. And I would like to bring basically my perspective on it. I'm not necessarily an expert on the angelic realm stuff, like that's not my main focus. Although I have started to work with the angelic realm in 2019 when I started this YouTube channel again. And since then, our relationships have developed, and I basically work with them on a daily basis, not just on like when I'm doing some type of channeling, maybe, or client work, or healing, grid work, or whatever type of energetic stuff, but in general on a daily basis. And in the first part, since I know that majority of people just watch the first part of the whole stuff because it can be quite long. I want to go into like in general what are the archangels or angels, and in general the angelic realm, and how can you work with them on a conscious level. Like how can you like supercharge your own spiritual experience and also the stuff that you're able to do energetically, because they are here to assist us. They have always been here basically, but now we're entering an age when we are able to work with them more in a more direct manner, and also we're all becoming more aware of their presence. And since we're moving into a new phase of our collective evolution, and also Earth is changing, we're able to receive more of their guidance and assistance directly and much more easily than in the past, for example. So after we have went through like how can you work with them in a conscious level, I will go more in depth, like what can we consider angelic consciousness, like how does that manifest in our lives? Also, like humanity's relationship with the angelic realms, and is it possible for an angel or archangel to incarnate as a human being here on the physical plane? How can we recognize service to others and service to self beings? Like how can we recognize them and tell the difference? And also, if we have time, I want to go into what is fallen angelic consciousness and what influence do they have in our lives. And to basically explain that more in depth, we have to go into like evolution, and like also how the so-called angels are also evolving. They're also on their own path, and like how this fallen aspect or this fallen stream of energy or consciousness is like how is that part of their evolution as well, because it is affecting them and us as well at the same time. Okay, so first off, let's go into in general like what are the archangels and angels. But first, thank you for all of you joining. I see there are many here from Australia. Also, I think someone is from California, if I've seen correctly. I'm sending all of you much love from Transylvania. And yeah, like please write in from where are you broadcasting your beautiful energies into this group gathering. And also, if you have any type of questions, then you can put them in the chat box. And I absolutely love if you like put question marks at the beginning of it, because I can like easily like pinpoint that, okay, like someone is trying to ask something. And if possible, then please try to keep it to angels or spirit guides, and like how can we work with these beings, or if you have any types of experiences that you would like to share, that's awesome. So in general, that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so let's go into in the general overview of like angelic consciousness. In general, as I understand it, like we can see them as an evolutionary part of consciousness, like also, and we are also to a certain extent part of their evolutionary stream, basically. Like if you go online and like search for the hierarchy of angels, I'm not sure if that's exactly what it's called, but it's going to pop up that like graphic or something with the hierarchy of angels, because even they have different types of expressions of this angelic consciousness, of how evolved, how omnipresent and enlightened they are, basically. Like, for example, as far as I know, like the highest degree on their scale is the seraphim, and lower on the scale you have the archangel, angel, and also human. Like, also in certain traditions, like the human being is also considered to be part of the angelic hierarchy, because like we are part of each other's evolutionary path, basically. So if any of you like are familiar with, I think it's in, I'm not sure if it's included in the Old Testament, but I guess like many of you have heard of the book of Enoch, who was like a mystic or prophet, of course, if you go into the Christian tradition, was a mystic who was like doing his work in the very early parts after the flood, basically, or before the flood. I'm not sure, so I don't want to say anything stupid, but basically around that time when like things were resetting and we were like very much close to the Atlantean times. And also he lived for 300 and something years. And yeah, like we have it in those texts that after he has completed his life journey here on Earth, he ascended and became Archangel Metatron. So we are part of the angelic consciousness, like it is part of our evolution. We are part of them and they are part of us. And in some parts, I know like people are interested in like how can they like incarnate as human beings, but in my perspective and experience, it's like not that simple. Like it doesn't work in a linear way, as like you take like the whole of an angel or archangel, which is like a super vast and omnipresent consciousness and presence, which has like immense power, and all of a sudden he just like decides to like funnel himself into this small little thing and embody himself as an earth human. Like that doesn't really work, because like there's just too much that the human body is unable to process or express in this reality. So as I understand how this works is that an aspect of that higher being chooses to regress part of its consciousness to be incompatible with the earth body or this human body, basically. But they don't necessarily have to like incarnate as a human. Like they can do it on other planets in other realms as well. So this is just one way they can express themselves here on the physical plane, because they exist elsewhere too. Like they are omnipresent beings. Like they also work not just with Earth, they also work with different planes of existence, different star systems as well. Like they exist overall and in everything. So they're very vast beings, and only like a part of their consciousness regresses and becomes denser, so it can be compatible with the human form, and they can express themselves, or at least like a very small part of themselves, as a human. And in a human life, that kind of means that, I mean, you can I mean, in general, I think it like looks like a normal human, but maybe your energy system is different, and like the key feature that you have maybe compared to other people, or like other people in the energetic or enlightened community, as you have a more direct connection with that higher being, and you are able to very easily embody and call upon the energies of that specific higher being. For example, Archangel Michael, I know that many of us are like in contact with him, and he's working through many of us with this planet. I'm also in my deep blue Archangel Michael hoodie, so for this occasion. And I know that this is one way they're able to work with our reality as well. But the key thing that we can do is like the big thing that we can do is not just like expressing it here. Like the main thing that we can do is basically call on the whole aspect of that archangel, and like call it in very easily. And because the only way that they can come here and assist planet Earth, if you have someone here to call on them and like act as a channel, or just like an initiator of contact. Because if you, for example, you were to take Earth, and Earth would be on a super regressive timeline, well, like all knowledge of them, of the maybe the archangels or the higher realms, has been like stamped out and forgotten, and like nobody knows anything about them, and everyone is in this like super dense consciousness, then they would not be really able to work with us, because nobody would know how to call on them, or they won't even know that they exist. And yeah, like many people think that they are just part of fairy tales and stuff like that. But yeah, the key thing about like how they work with different planetary systems, as they choose to take forms or to choose to work through specific individuals who will act as a type of guide or a type of bridge between realities, like someone who can call them in to assist, basically. And also we can serve as a type of this type of channel of someone basically who is able to share information about this and like raise awareness with the general population, like, hey, like this is actually working and this exists and you can do it too, like it's there for you as well. Okay, so let's see. Silver boho soul, are they in service to God entity? Yeah, like I don't really like the like call God an entity or something, like that's kind of diminishing, I think. Yeah, like in a Hermetic philosophy, like they don't really call God, like that's kind of a Christian thing. But yeah, like it's called the all or souls or the one. Basically in that state, which we call God, like that's the state where it's the ultimate state of consciousness, when everything becomes one. It merges into one. It represents everything at the same time. It is at the end of evolution, and it is also the beginning of evolution as well. So, and yes, these higher beings, which we call angels, archangels, if you even go higher, like they are in service of evolution. They are there to uphold law and to bring balance and order. So you can see them as a type of, I wouldn't say like a force that keeps order, but their main thing is to uphold balance in creation and to assure evolution. So what we're experiencing now is to basically give the opportunity and possibility to all beings and every life everywhere in the cosmos to choose to evolve. Because, for example, in our planet, like we've experienced oppression for many thousands of years, which was there basically to hold us back from our evolution, so we do not expand and become more than average humans, basically, because then the whole system of repression would simply not work. And basically right now they're working with us and through us to make it possible so that human beings can realize that, hey, like we actually do have a choice, like we can evolve and become more if we want to. And like all the information is here and all the assistance is also here. Because as I said earlier, as we're moving forward on this timeline, we are raising the collective consciousness of humanity as well, but also this Mother Earth and this whole realm is shifting, is becoming lighter. We are coming closer to the higher realms as well. So we are able to receive even more higher assistance and guidance here on planet Earth. Much more than we could have experienced maybe just like 20 or 200 years ago. So just reach out, because like that's the only thing, how it works also with our guides. Like you have to ask for the guidance and assistance, otherwise it just doesn't work. Otherwise, if they were to like intervene, like come here and like do stuff for us or like make decisions for us, then it would be considered interference because we haven't asked for it. Okay. Yeah, like Sarah, the Book of Enoch is only Inkle? Okay. Okay. Yeah, I have another question. I was meaning the God of the Bible. Oh yeah. And I know like you also mentioned in your comment, like how did we know that the archangels are like actually here to assist us? or they are just like servants of some kind of being that tries to pose as God and like make us worship it, and siphon our energies. Like we will go into that as well. But genuine angelic consciousness is here to uphold balance. They are like the protectors of life. So it is basically the one of the highest expressions of consciousness that exists in the universe. And like at that level, you can't really, basically you exist to serve and to be a guide, to be a shepherd of life. Like that's how they function. That's why they exist in general. That's how they live. But also you have the other aspect of it, which is called the fallen angelic consciousness, which is, of course, not a very high or ascended state of consciousness. Like that's just like 2 steps above our existence, basically. It's like the lower astral, or just beings who have maybe physicality to a certain extent, but they were able to like pass a bit beyond and become less dense, but still, because of their fallen ways, they're not able to ascend to a higher state of awareness. Okay, but we will go into that at the last parts of this. So how can you work with the archangels and angels as well? But before we go into that, I will test out my new solution for my cracking noise, a bit of water with baking soda. Let's see how it works. It doesn't taste too good. Okay. So how can we work with the archangels? In general, like as I see it, and also in my experience, like there are these omnipresent cosmic forces that are very vast, and each of them represents a different aspect of consciousness, of creation, or law, however you want to call it. For example, as you have Archangel Michael, who is like the ultimate embodiment of protection, safety, truth, for example. And you also have Archangel Raphael, who is represented by the green fire or the green light of the heart center, for example. Like he's an excellent healer as well. I also work with Archangel Uriel, who is like representative of the scarlet spectrum, who is also an amazing for healing stuff in the body and in different levels as well. And you have, I also work with Archangel Uriel at the time. Like he's the archangel of abundance and well-being. So each of them basically represent a different aspect of consciousness, or embody a specific force, basically. And whatever you're doing, like if you're like a channel, you do energy work, you do grid work, maybe do healings, and if you choose to work with them and ask them for assistance with the whole thing, like they can act as a super catalyst in the whole process of what you're doing. Like they can absolutely like supercharge your abilities and like make things much more stable and clearer. For example, you can ask them to hold specific frequencies for you. And also, of course, if you ask for protection, clearance, and all those stuff, that can also greatly assist with what you're doing in your day-to-day life. Because we have a lot of interference here on planet Earth. Like you can also experience intruders, just also things that would just like disrupt what you're doing and like more apparent or like less apparent in like very subtle ways. And it's like always good to do a clearing and like make sure that nothing that can like derail your practice or what you want to do can come in. So you have like a clean space inside yourself as well, and also around you, so like nothing can disrupt what you're doing. Because energy work is a very sensitive work, and it requires a lot of patience, clarity, and focus. And if like unwanted stuff come in, then like it can totally derail the entire experience. Yes, Adriana. Archangel Uriel helps to make good decisions. He is amazing. Yes. And like I usually work with the 7 archangels. If you have done the meditations with me, In the past, we always call on them. It's Archangel Michael, Uriel, Raphael, Sandalphon, Metatron, Gabriel, and Azrael. But at the beginning, I only work with 3 of them, which I found out have a very interesting combination. Is Archangel Michael, who is represented by blue. Then you have Archangel Uriel, who is represented by red or scarlet. And you have Archangel Raphael, who is represented by green. And a fun fact, you could like imagine like 3 circles, 3 discs embodying this color. And if you like bring all the 3 together, and if they intersect, then it becomes white. And basically that's on this 3 color basis, this is how all our modern day monitors work. Your phone, your LED monitors, your TV screen, like they all use RGB spectrum to display millions of colors. So all the nuances that you see on your screen right now are the combination of these 3 colors. So that's an awesome fact. Okay, so Adriana, Archangel Ariel invited to clean and cleanse you. Although help me animals. Okay, yeah, I have only worked once with her or with him, I'm not sure. I don't know much about her, sadly. Okay. So yeah, I think we mostly address, if anyone has like any questions like how to work with them, or if you want to share like how do you work with them, then please do so. We can like jump back to this later on as well. Okay. So we briefly touched upon like how could, for example, like archangels manifest as human beings, or at least part of them descend into this lower realm and become basically physical. And yeah, I'm going to like merge the 3 points that I talked about earlier into one, and like talk about like evolution in general, and like how angelic consciousness plays a part in our evolution as well, and how do we play a part in their evolution as well. So as many of you know, like human beings don't necessarily only exist on planet Earth. Like we are not a unique species here, and this is not the first time that we lived and evolved. Like I believe many of you are familiar with the Atlantean culture, and also the culture before that, which is called Lemuria or Mu. And yeah, like we also existed on other planets as well. Like we also had history on Mars, for example. And we're just only like rediscovering the fragments of that as well. But that's kind of a, I wouldn't say like taboo stuff, but people don't really like to go there. But there are like definitely some type of evidence that some form of civilization has lived there as well. Like they find freaking pyramids with satellite images. So at a certain point in our, or not exactly our evolution, we were also connected to that civilization as well. And now I also want to go into like how can angelic consciousness manifest itself? Like we talked about the part that they can choose to regress and reduce their resonance in order to come in tune with the physical body, for example, of a human being. But they can also express themselves through different types of consciousnesses as well. Like you have, for example, the Ascended Masters, as we call them, and also you have different types of other species from different planetary systems who are more evolved than us, who at the same time can also represent the same evolved energies of a higher archangel, for example. Like if you were to like take a different civilization, I'm just going to use the Pleiadians for this. Like they are also a type of human civilization, but they are like far more, I'm not sure how far before us in evolution, but they are definitely, yeah, like they're more evolved than us, physically and also spiritually as well. And basically that means that they are closer to them, to the angelic realms in resonance, because they're much more clean, they're clearer, they have worked through their karma and all their stuff. Hey, it's high vibrations. Hey, see you next Sunday. Okay, So they're much more pure, they're more higher resonance, they have more higher vibrations in them. And so they're able to merge with angelic consciousness much more easily than an earth human would be able to do. So that means that they are able to embody far more of that angelic consciousness in physical or not so physical form, because like if you like go into more evolved civilizations, like they are not, I mean, they have a physicality to them, but they are not as physical as we are. So they have much lighter resonance than we have. And also if you go further, then most likely they are not even physical, like they're like pure energy beings. So in general, like other aspects of consciousness can also represent these angelic beings as well. And sometimes like these angelic beings can choose to like interact with our species, for example, through these representatives. For example, like an evolved species, the Pleiadians, like they can come in and be the guides and assist us in our evolution. And I'm also going to like briefly go into our evolution as well. For example, if any of you are familiar, as I said, with Atlantis and like previous civilizations, then you know that we are going through different cycles of human evolution, of like ascending and descending waves of consciousness. And there are different phases of like materialization and spiritualization phases. And basically we have already achieved maximal materialization phase, and we're like we've been experiencing that for quite some time, and also we've been struggling with it for quite some time, but we're in the phase since I think since the birth of Christ, like he seeded this whole impulse of Christ consciousness, and since then we started the upward path of spiritualization when we balance out our material aspect with our spiritual self, basically. So this is what we're experiencing right now, is like a super evolved state as well. But yeah, like some people like to diminish it and like think that we're just physical beings to like keep us from our evolutionary path, but we're experiencing something very special right now, because we have like experienced the lowest density, and now we're coming back, we're going up again in consciousness, becoming much more evolved and much wiser than we were before. Yes, going back to more ancient times. So basically the human race, of course, we're very much developing. We're a somewhat infantile race. We haven't figured stuff out. So we have different teachers throughout our history. And these teachers can come in various ways. Like in recent times, we've experienced, just as I mentioned, Christ, for example. We also had the Buddha, we had Zoroaster in more ancient times, and Thoth for Hermes, and you can go back to different cultures. Like they all have their sages and prophets and basically beings who had a higher awareness and just simply chose to become human, so they can like seed these ideas and like teach people how to become more balanced and more evolved. And to go even further back, then you have the more extreme version of it when like ETs came, and basically they were the teachers of the human race, or who were, you could say, like also even more evolved because they were higher vibrational than the human form, so they could embody more of this angelic consciousness and to be even greater teachers to ours. And I guess like that's also the reason why Atlantis was so highly evolved, probably even more evolved than we are, because like they had much more direct contact with the higher realms. Like they weren't as dense as we are right now. We are super materialistic and logic-based and ego-mind-centric beings, but back then we weren't as dense as we are right now. So we were far more open to such interactions than right now. Okay, so yeah, so many beings came here to assist us and to guide us in our evolution. And basically, this is also a type of test for them as well, because like even though compared to us, they're like can be super evolved, or at least that's how they can appear to us, but still they're also on their own path. They're also on their own journey. They're also learning stuff, And part of their evolution, after you have reached a certain point, and it comes that you become the teacher, like you become basically a shepherd for others, like a steward. And that was the next step for many races, basically. And I also think in part for the Pleiadians as well. Because if I remember correctly, we have like Pleiadian names in the Old Testament. So some of them also came to teach humanity, basically. And in part, like this was also a test for them as well. Like, how are you going to graduate from this phase, basically? Because like you have different phases in spiritual or just simply in evolution. And they have passed the last test. They have ascended to become more empowered and conscious cosmic beings. And like the next step is like, hey, like that's great, but now comes the part when you will be the guide for all these other races and other civilizations who are far beneath you, who are just figuring stuff out. Like now it's time for you to pass on the torch, basically. And that's why we had those amazing teachers and encounters in ancient times as well. And yeah, like there's like two faces to this coin, sadly, because when you come here to Earth, you basically, yeah, like all the rules and regulations of this plane apply to you. So many of you know that when you get born here, then most of us forget who we are, or this is a very dense place. We lose much of who we are, basically. Forget who we were originally. We also can lose much of our gifts, previous memories, our identity in some cases. And also when these beings came here, I'm not sure, I think it probably was a mix of actually physically coming here and also part being born here as a type of a human, although not exactly as us, but still having an earth embodiment as we would understand it. And when you basically come here and you reside in this realm, then all the laws and all the density of this realm like will affect you over time. So it has the possibility. So basically Earth is a very dense place, which can this realm is like supercharging revolution, because you have so many possibilities here on planet Earth. You can experience like the highest light. You can become this super high vibrational being and like ascending to the higher planes, far more evolved. But at the same time, you can also fall down to the lowest density and like merge with the void and like those fallen consciousnesses and embody those here on planet Earth. So it's like a very two-sided coin of like what can happen here on planet Earth. And basically some beings didn't really make past the tests, and they have fallen, basically. Fallen to the traps of the ego mind. So let's see, higher vibration said something. I wonder what the practical difference are, if any, between some of these glowing inner earth beings and angels. I have absolutely no clue. I know like inner earth is a thing, but it's something I never explored. Yes, the great forgetting and getting past this is considered the most exciting obstacle of this life. Yeah, some of us don't really enjoy it. Then when you are in it, it doesn't always feel that exciting. Yes, I can definitely agree with that. When you come in blind to this reality, this very dark place. Okay, so going back to the not passing the test, basically. Because, yeah, like, and you can basically see the same patterns being repeated in our society as well. So when you're exploring these very metaphysical and like mystical concepts of like angelic consciousness and like fallen beings and things like that, like it's always interesting to see that how the properties and the way these beings function, like how does that project into our reality, like how does that influence our society, our governmental structures, like how do we behave on a day-to-day basis, because like over time they have merged with our collective basically, and it has a great influence over our lives. Like that's, in my opinion, part of the reason that we're experiencing all the traumas and difficulties, because like that fallen consciousness has merged with our collective. Like it got stuck here because it didn't pass the graduation test. Okay, so back to graduating. So as I said previously, like the next test in your evolution, if you become this higher being, is like to become a steward, to become a guide and teacher to like lesser beings, to help them evolve. And basically some beings who came here like fell to the temptation, as you were to call it, of the ego mind, basically, of like thinking that, hey, like we're so much more than these lonely little earth humans, like we know so much more and we're much better, so let's teach them to worship us because like we are so much more evolved and more sophisticated. And basically they, I know, like they entered into this like God complex thing of thinking of themselves as gods and like wanting other humans to like worship them because they're like so above them vibrationally and knowledge wise. And I guess like this is where many of the ancient gods and like Anunnaki and stuff like that comes from, that like these fallen beings who thought so much of themselves wanted human beings who were like children at that time to worship them because they thought they are better or more than human beings basically, and basically created these structures of belief, power, different types of systems that basically act as a type of I wouldn't, it's basically as a control mechanism, how to control the evolution of the human race. So basically they can like siphon the energy and like make themselves even more powerful. Because after, if you like stray from the so-called the path of like the path of enlightenment or the golden path or the path to God, I'm not sure how you want to call that, but many cultures have different names to it. If you like stray from that, and if you're like this super evolved being and you like choose to like stray from that path and like use your power and knowledge to basically become service to self, then after a time then you become very distorted. And like, this is what we can see with many of these beings, that once maybe they have been these amazing angelic type beings, but since they became so corrupted and distorted and basically going through these lifetimes because they were not able to overcome their own temptations and their own corruption, and basically they were like recycling this stuff like over and over and over again throughout thousands or even probably even more than that, hundreds of thousands of years. They were like stuck in that loop and they have become like super distorted, and some of them probably even lost their original identity as well. And I think like this is where our whole concept of like a demonic consciousness comes from, because like you had these beings who were like somewhat above us vibrationally because they were more evolved, but still, since they have not chosen to be service to others and to be of service to life in general, then they have been stuck and they were like not, they were no longer allowed to like pass forward or like expand because like they have not passed the test. So basically they got, some of them, as I understand, are like stuck here. Like in the past few years, like many of them have left. I know that because I've seen much of that stuff happen. But yeah, like basically we're stuck in our lower astral. And since they're like so detached from like God, from source, because like everything in creation is like sustained by source energy. Because like if you are in alignment with your soul, if you're in alignment with nature, then you are sustained basically. But if you'd like choose to remove yourself from that and like fall into a different aspect of consciousness, then basically you're able to lose your nourishment. The source will no longer sustain you in the same way. So, but you still need that energy to survive and to like not disintegrate and like be recycled in a certain way, because as far as I understand, if you like fall to a certain level and like you like lose, I wouldn't say like the energy, but yeah, basically if you lose the last fragments of your energy to simply exist, then basically you will lose everything that you have done so far and be like completely like thrown back evolutionary, and you like kind of have to start from the very beginning. Like all the progress that you have done will be lost. I think that's how it works. So of course these beings who have existed for God knows how many thousands or millions of years, they don't want to lose all that progress. So the only thing that they can do is like since they're not sustained by source energy, they don't receive it naturally, then they have to take it from someone who has. And this is where all that energy siphoning and like energy vampires, sacrifices and stuff like that comes in, because you need that energy to function. And if you don't have it, you have to force it out of someone else. And this is kind of the thing that we can also see in our society as well, like in different aspects of our society, like this whole parasitic thing that you don't really produce anything, but you're going to take it away from someone who does produce something just so you can sustain yourself and like insert yourself above them so you can siphon their energy, basically. Okay, I see we have a question. Path 8. How can you discern you are connecting with angelic realm versus other forms of consciousness? Yes, yeah, like this is where service to self and service to other concept comes in, basically. Like in the very beginning, you are going to experience both. Like you have the potential to experience, you're most likely going to have connection with your guides or some types of experiences with your soul family or star tribe. Like we have different support groups. You're going to have experiences with them, and they're like going to give you an example of, hey, like this is how all the good stuff looks like or feels like. And at the same time, you're also going to have experience with some not so pleasant beings as well, because like that's also part of the journey, basically. You can also, as you're like opening up and becoming more aware, probably you're going to attract some nasty stuff as well. For example, like parasitic beings, or also humans, like I don't want to say possessed, but humans who have this energy vampire vibe to them, who in some cases maybe also have some few nasty attachments, who can amplify that draining effect. And you can have those experiences too. And that's totally cool, because it's like super important to experience them, because after that you will start to recognize patterns and you will start to recognize one from the other, basically. But yeah, like doing your protection work is super important. Like work with Archangel Michael for clearing yourself, clearing your home, creating a protective field around you, also around your home as well. Always create a sacred and safe space around you to sleep in, to exist in, and to just simply function. And when you're meditating, when you're dreaming, you're exploring, like astral projecting, then always make sure that you're like clear and have a clear space around you, so you're not attracting anything unpleasant and nasty, or something that can like derail that specific experience. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you will not experience those as well. Like in some cases, you might have like an astral experience with those nasty entities, so you can like get a look and a feel of like, what is that exactly like? Just for the purpose so you can like tell them apart in the future. But in general, like, for example, if you like listen to someone, I know, like maybe a teacher or a channeling or something, you can like also go by the vibe, like how does that make you feel? And also like, what is that doing to you? Like the information that you're receiving, like, is it something empowering? Like, is it actually assisting you in this life? to be more balanced, to be more joyful, to be more integrated. Or maybe it's something that is disempowering, or it makes you fearful, or it causes you to have anxiety or tension, or something that is most likely some form of fallen consciousness. Because like the higher realms are, as I said with the angels, that they are here to assist us. They're like a shepherds of life. They're here to like uphold law and to make sure that like all life has the possibility to evolve and to express themselves as they choose to express, and not be controlled by any type of suppressive force or be siphoned for energy or anything like that. So that's in a nutshell, like how can you tell the two from apart? But yeah, like it takes time and experience to like see and experience both. But after a time it will become very clear, especially if your mind is very clear. Just as in Master Yoda said, like, I'm not sure, I think it was in the Empire Strikes Back, like Luke was asking, like, but how will I know the dark side? Like, how can I recognize it? And Yoda was like, if your mind is clear, you will know. Yeah. If you're agitated or you're stressed out, you're fighting for survival, you're angry, or you're afraid, like basically you're blocked. Like your whole energy, your whole being is like frozen, and you are not able to do anything in that state, including not seeing and feeling clearly, because like all your judgment and like all your those very nuanced faculties that we have, or like our energy sensitiveness, like requires that calm and like clearness. Like if you're agitated, you will not feel a damn thing. The only thing that you will be able to focus on is you being agitated and like being upset at something. That is why like energy work or like channeling or anything like that just simply doesn't work in that state. You like have to go through different phases of like calming yourself, then purifying yourself, and like making sure that everything is aligned, so all your subtle senses like can come back online again and start to use them again. So always keep that in mind before you go with some kind of rash decision. Just first calm down, and like maybe ask for guidance and assistance, and ask your higher self like how, and just see like how does this feel, like what am I sensing regarding this specific person or this specific situation. Like is this good for me, or do I want to participate in this, or maybe I don't want to participate. And like sometimes it will be like super clear of like you get this like, oh, like okay, I don't want this. Sometimes it manifests like that, and sometimes it will be super subtle, because they're like super subtle and sneaky energies as well. Okay. Yeah, like if anyone has any questions regarding this, then please share. Okay. Yeah, I think we went into the fallen aspect as well. But yeah, like in the last part, like I just shared that, hey, like there are all these nasty fallen energies here, although in my opinion there aren't as much as they were 5 years ago. But that's just me. But yeah, like what can we do about it? Because like for some it may seem like very scary that like these things exist, and yeah, like they do exist, but like hiding from them doesn't solve the issue. Like we've been hiding from these things for many generations, and it didn't help at all. So, and we're now entering the phase of the apocalypse, where basically like apocalypse means in Greek that things that are hidden will be revealed, or revelations basically. So everything that was hidden comes to the surface. And that also means all the nasty stuff as well. So all the shadow aspects on a personal level, maybe in a blood lineage level, and also on a collective level, like everything comes up because we have to face it. Like we are moving into the next phase of our evolution, and like we cannot take those stuff with us, because like we're becoming lighter, Mother Earth is becoming far more higher vibrational, and that is like also like pushing us as well to evolve, because like we are here, like you are part of Mother Earth. Like if you're here and you were born here, then you are part of her. Like our bodies is made out of her substance, of her body basically, and she keeps us alive. So we are very intrinsically connected to her. And because she is moving consciousness-wise and vibrationally, it's also affecting us very deeply as well. And because she wants to go, and many of us wants to go as well, like all these things that are holding us back right now are like coming to the surface. And this can be also like on an individual level. And of course, we have seen a lot of it on the main stage in the past few years. Like all the nasty stuff, like all the fears that we had, like all the things that we're trying to avoid came to the light because they can no longer hide. And like all the shadows are coming out to be processed, to be let go, so we can move on in a much more lighter and healed way, basically. And like the only basically the only solution for it is what we can do on an individual level is to like tap into our heart center and like anchor our Christ consciousness, like a Christ self basically, because we can also call it Buddha consciousness, or probably there are other names for it as well. But basically this template, which in Western culture we call Christ consciousness, is like the template for the next step of human evolution, of becoming the empowered human being who is balanced for the first time since, I know, probably since we exist. Because we always had this like imbalance of the two poles, like we were always like jumping from one extreme to the other extreme of the pole. And you can like also see this in not just in a recent history, but if you go back throughout history, like we were never balanced. Like we were always jumping between extremes of governance, of one thing working to a certain extent, but then we were like exaggerating it and like pushing it to such a farther extreme that it became toxic. Then we like have fallen back to the other side over time, then back again. And like this is what we have been experiencing for a very long time. And we also haven't had a balance between genders as well. Like the divine feminine has been insanely suppressed in the past few thousands of years, and now it is coming to the surface. And now the divine masculine is being, I wouldn't say suppressed, but it's at a huge disadvantage, because we didn't have healthy masculinity in the past few thousand years either. Like suppressing the other gender doesn't make you stronger or more balanced. So we also have to figure out like what does healthy masculinity look like, and how can you embody that? We have zero template for that. So we're in unknown, uncharted territories right now. But all our beautiful sisters, like you're embodying the divine feminine aspect, and like that is very much like empowered at this time, because like we had a lack of that for a very long time, and now it's coming back, because like the divine feminine is the mystic, is the feeler, the creative side of the mind, and we were lacking that, and we need that for balance basically. And so all the divine feminine embodiments who are listening to this broadcast right now, you're doing an amazing job of actually like anchoring those templates and embodying it and like sharing it with everyone. And basically that's kind of what we have to do as well. Like I mean the guys, like we also have to anchor our divine feminine aspect and balance it out with the masculine. Yeah, it's a tricky process, but basically the Christ consciousness is the representation of this balance, basically, of like balancing out your divine feminine with the masculine, and like being a perfect embodiment of the divine masculine form or the divine feminine form. And also it means balancing out our shadow self with the light self as well, because we have many shadows that we carried with us for many generations, And we have to heal that stuff as well, like hiding from it and like passing it down further with another and another and another generation doesn't make it go away, it just amplifies it. It is also what is represented by Christ consciousness. And like the best way that you can access it is by working with your heart center, with your highest self. Because in our heart center, like in all our meditations, we work with the eternal fire, which is like a spark of divine fire that is within your heart center. Like you can view it as a fragment of your oversoul, and which you can like see it as like a huge sun, and the only part of that huge sun that is able to like incarnate and embody itself is like a little candle flame. And that candle flame like lives in all of us, like that's what's giving you life, and that's like the part of you that's like going from life onto life into the next life. Like it's the part of you that can like never cease to exist or be destroyed. It can be captured, but it cannot be destroyed. Okay, but yeah, like, but that's basically just a little spark of divinity, like that's just a little spark of fire. But the thing is that you can make it larger, like you can call on the full force of your higher self, like you can call on the full force of the sun and embody that divine energy in form, basically. And that is like a huge catalyst in your growth. It purifies you, it assists you in your evolution, and you're able to embody more and more physically in this life your higher self, or as many people call it, your Christ consciousness, which is mostly represented by golden light. I see it many times as golden fire, for example. Like maybe some of you will be like drawn to work with the sun's energies, like maybe going energetically and projecting yourself to the sun and like just feeling it and like absorbing that energy inside yourself, because also the sun is like a portal of divine energies, and then it is connected to other stars, so you can view the stars as a huge network, just like your nervous system. And if you like look at some awesome shots, I think it was done by NASA, and like just viewing different star systems and like clusters, you can like see that they are like forming very similar to our nervous system. So as above, so below. Okay, we have another question. How do you anchor your Christ consciousness? Yes, I think, yeah, like working with your heart center, doing what I've just shared previously. And also a huge factor in this is trying to act and think and function and be from the perspective of unconditional love, of your highest self, from Christ consciousness. But basically, in the beginning, what I've learned through Christ consciousness was forgiveness for self and others and unconditional love. Like this is like the main thresholds and like the main obstacles, as you would like to call it, that are like blocking our heart center. Because like if you're always holding on to all your grudges and like you're angry at people and just want to turn your anger onto other people because it feels justified, and if you live from that perspective, then of course that's like super heart killer. Like your heart center cannot function in that state. And also you have to learn unconditional love. Like it can be difficult in the beginning, especially if you were like super detached or something, or you lived in a very abusive relationship, or your upbringing was very grim. Like for us, I think for many of us, it took quite some time. It took for me quite a few years. It was a huge learning curve to actually start to actually feel unconditional love. Like I didn't really even know like what is it like in the beginning, because I was in such a detached state basically for most of my life. But as you are starting to work on those, and it will come online and anchor more and more and more. But yeah, like the other thing, like I wouldn't say like a disclaimer, but like a warning, it's as you're working with your heart, like all the shadows and like all the traumas or things that are holding you back will come to the surface. because like they need healing before you can reach the next state, next phase in your evolution. And it's basically the exact same thing that is happening on a collective level. Like all the things that are not working for us are like coming to the surface so we can like face it and like make a decision that, okay, like this didn't work and let's go in another direction. Or like, how can we make this better? Or like, how can we heal this whole thing? And basically that willingness will like kickstart the whole process, basically. The willingness and also the will to actually act upon that, because just like having ideas and fantasies about something like that, that will not make it happen here on planet Earth, because we're in part spirit, but we're also physical, and we live in a physical reality. So if you want to manifest something, it's great to have the idea, but and visualize stuff and feel it, but you have to act upon it to actually complete the whole process. So if you know what you want to be in life like, or what you would like your life to look like, where would you like to live, what types of people would you like to have around yourself, then basically just act from that perspective. And regardless of like what your goals are, or maybe just like changing yourself, changing your physique, changing your mental state, like each day do something that is like propelling you on that journey, basically. Because if you do that, then you're like supercharging the whole process, and you're showing, I wouldn't say like showing to the cosmos, but basically how it works in here where we live in is like what you are and what you put out, like that will come back to you amplified. So if you're in this like super unconscious state of just being this victim mentality of like, maybe I never have enough, or I have to take from other people so I can have stuff. And basically this is like lack mentality. You're just emanating to the cosmos that, hey, I never have enough of anything, like I don't have enough. And basically you're going to get back experiences that will like reinforce that. And so you're going to lose even more, so you can have even less after that. And like the only way, for example, how you can like remedy that is to like feel the, yeah, like feel gratitude for what you already have. Not necessarily like wish that, oh, I really like to have that super car or this amazing salary that most likely I would never have, but it would be great. Instead of just like imagining, you know, like projecting your energy out there somewhere with some fantasy maybe, then just simply focus on like what you already have and like be grateful for that. Because if you emanate and embody the energy of gratitude or love, for example, if you like love for others, like I already appreciate the people who are around me, I choose to love them, I choose to assist them, and like that is what you embody, then that is what you're going to receive back like tenfold. Like then the universe will send you experiences, situations, conditions which will amplify your gratitude, like you will have even more. Or if you are like assisting others, or you're just in general like a very loving and supportive person, then you can like, you will be always assisted in everything that you do, because like that's what you're receiving back. Like even from totally random stranger, they were just, you need something and just all of a sudden something somewhere pops up that will assist you in doing exactly that. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the person that you know. It works in very awesome and free-flowing ways. Okay, so we have a last question before we end this session. It's from Path 88. Okay. Do you have any clearing or protection meditation on your channel? I get into a bit of scary situations and call upon Archangel Michael. I was helped right away. Yes. Yeah, we also have from Adriana. I think, Adriana, you're from Bucharest, I think. So sending you much love, Star Sister from the same country. Okay, so she said, ask Jesus to come and live in your heart. Give his frequency and fill you with the Christ light. Forgive, forgive and let go. Be in love and peace. Yes. Yeah, like I will address both. But yeah, what Adriana said is definitely like the long-term solution for what Path 88 asked for. Because like if you choose to embody that higher vibrational self, to live from the perspective of Christ consciousness, and you become in general much more high vibrational, then basically all those nasty energies will not be able to touch you. Or in some cases you will be not be even able to sense them, because like you're no longer on the same playing field as they are. You just like vibrate over them. And like that's also what in Hermetic philosophy is, that like in order to overcome the difficulties of the lower plane, you have to vibrate on the higher. Because and also with as Path 88 said, like when you experience these lower beings, like you call on higher forces that can deal with that situation. Like you are not going to, I don't know, like deal with it hands on hands yourself, because it may work, depends on like what you're experiencing. But yes, the best solution is to like call on Archangel Michael and ask him to clear your field, like clean out all the nasty remedies of that experience, like clear your room, your house, and like protect you and your family, your surroundings, and just make sure that everything's cool and you can go back to sleep. And yes, I have any clearing meditation? I know that we haven't done just a clearing per se, but like all the meditations that we do start with a type of clearing. But I have videos that do a type of energy clearing. You can also check that out. I think it was posted more than a year ago. And I also have 2 videos with the spiritual contract removal as well. So you can check that out as well. That's also a much more profound way of clearing, of like disentangling all the nasty contracts that we have made throughout this life and also through other lifetimes as well, with regressive forces and limiting belief systems and systems of control, basically. Because that's also part of this whole game, that based on contracts we have agreed to different types of limiting factors, and things can become so limiting after a time that you can even barely live and exist. So not let alone function in a higher vibrational way. So I also highly recommend checking those out as well. And like seeing what types of connections do you have that you no longer wish to have in your life. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. I think like those were the last questions. Awesome. And we also were able to go through all the points. Okay. So theoretically, on next Sunday, we will have, and also, yeah, Silver Boho Soul, I love your Violet Flame meditation. Yeah, like that's an also awesome way of clearing, healing, transmuting dense energies. Like if you had nasty experiences, use the Violet Flame to clear that out and like bring everything into alignment. You can use it to clear yourself, your field, your home, your family, your land. It's an amazing tool. Highly recommend to use it. We also have many meditations with that. Okay, so next week we're going to also have a live event, but it's going to be on Soulology.com, and Higher Vibrations will be holding the event, and I think it will be broadcasting here as well. So I will be broadcasting it at a later date. I think it will be at not a later date, but a bit later in time. It will be 3 hours later than we started today. So I think that would be like 2 p.m. Pacific Standard. That's what's going to be next week. I won't be able to like schedule it here, but I will post a notification on the community section of the exact time so we can tune into it. We had an awesome time last month with higher vibrations and with all the interesting questions that she brought from Soulology. So yeah. But also, if you have any types of topic ideas or questions, then please do put them in the comment sections here, or preferably in the community sections, because like also this whole event was inspired by 2 community questions. So please do send in your topic ideas and questions. Maybe they will just be simply answered in a Q&A, or maybe we'll do an entire huge hour-long discussion with it. So you can never know. Thank you very much for joining. I'm sending all of you much love